All right, let's get right into it. We all spend our lives chasing this idea of wealth, right? But what if the picture we're chasing is just a mirage? Today, we're going to tear down that facade and look at the real blueprint to actual wealth, the kind you don't see, the kind that buys freedom, and uncover the surprisingly simple and honestly kind of boring path to get there. So picture this. You're at a barbecue. You've got one guy in a faded polo shirt who pulls up in a 10-year-old Toyota. Then you have another guy, dripping with confidence, who just leased a brand new Mercedes. Your gut tells you who the rich guy is, right? Well, the data says you're probably wrong, like way, way wrong. And really getting that difference, well, that's the first step on the whole journey.
And this slide right here gets to the heart of what I'm talking about. It's the great deception. On one side, you have the performance of wealth, the flashy car payments, the designer logos, the latest phone every single year. And on the other side, the reality, the paid-off house, the decade-old car that runs just fine, and a quiet refusal to play that status game. One is a golden cage of payments, and the other, that's real freedom.
Now, if you want some hard data to back this up, here it is, 86%. Researchers found that a staggering 86% of luxury cars are driven by people who are not millionaires. Let that sink in. The next time you see a brand new G-Wagon roll by, the statistically correct response isn't envy, it's probably a little bit of concern for their budget. It just goes to show you the signals we've all been taught to read are almost completely backwards. Okay, so if looking rich is a trap, then what's the actual path? Well, let's get into the blueprint itself. We're going to deconstruct the surprisingly consistent and totally counterintuitive habits of the people who are secretly building fortunes all around us. You know, the playbook is almost hilariously simple. The number one car brand for millionaires? Toyota. Not BMW, not Mercedes, Toyota. They typically live in very normal houses in very normal neighborhoods, way below what they could actually afford. And their jobs? The top professions are things like engineer, accountant, teacher. Not exactly what you see in the movies. And here's the real kicker. Nearly 80% of them built it all themselves, with zero inheritance. The common thread here? They're not trying to make a statement. They're just making one smart, unglamorous decision after another. And you can bet they know exactly where every single dollar is. And if you think this is all just theory, I want you to meet Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant. He wore a flannel jacket held together by a safety pin. Nobody ever noticed him. But when he passed away, this quiet, unassuming man had secretly built an $8 million fortune. How? Just by saving what he could, investing in solid blue-chip stocks, and then just waiting. He is the ultimate proof that this blueprint absolutely works.
Okay, so you're following the blueprint. You're doing all the right things. But then comes the test. And believe me, it will come. A market crash is inevitable. It's not some rare black swan event. It's a recurring exam that brutally separates those who have prepared from those who are about to lose a decade of financial progress.
Just look at how fast this happens. Take 2020. The market went from an all-time high to a 34% drop in just over a month. I mean, it really felt like the financial world was ending. But then, 5 months later, it had recovered. Completely. The pain was incredibly intense. But for those who were prepared, the window of chaos and opportunity was actually pretty short.
So, the most important thing is how you walk into that crash. Person A, they have no cash, they're over-leveraged, they have no choice but to panic sell at the absolute bottom, locking in massive losses. But person B, they were prepared. They didn't just survive, they actually thrived. They kept investing their normal amount, buying up incredible assets on a massive discount, and they came out of the crash far, far wealthier. The market didn't choose their fate, their preparation did.
So how do you make sure you're person B? Well, here's the playbook. It's not complicated. First, a 6-month cash cushion is absolutely non-negotiable. It's the oxygen that lets you breathe during the storm. Second, high-interest debt is an anchor. You have to cut it loose. Third, know what you actually own. Rebalance your portfolio. Fourth, and this is the hard part, you have to keep investing right through the drop. And fifth, you can use the downturn to make some really smart tax moves, like a Roth conversion. Notice, not a single one of these steps requires you to predict the future.
All right, now for the really cool part. Let's see how all of this builds up, because if you can follow the blueprint and survive the market's tests, you eventually reach this incredible milestone where the entire game of wealth building changes. It's called the crossover point, and it's where the math just flips on its head. So what is it? Here's the definition. It is the exact moment when your investments start making more money on their own than you are physically able to save from your paycheck. Think about that. Up to this point, you were the engine of your wealth.
After this point, the market becomes the engine.
Let's make this super real. A $500,000 portfolio, just earning the historical average return of the S&P 500, will generate about $50,000 a year in growth, all by itself, passively. That is more than the median individual income in the entire country. Your money is now literally out-earning most people, and it never has to sit in a meeting.
And this chart illustrates that shift perfectly. In the early days, before you hit that $500,000 mark, your personal savings are doing all the heavy lifting. Market growth is just a small helper. But once you cross that line, the roles completely reverse. Market growth becomes this massive, powerful engine, and your contributions are just kinda along for the ride.
You know, the late, great Charlie Munger put it perfectly. He said, the first $100,000 is a bitch. And it is. It's brutally hard because you're doing all the work yourself. It's an absolute grind. But after that, he said, you can ease off the gas a little. A kind of magic takes over. Your money starts working for you, it starts hiring more money, and compounding just takes the wheel.
So you've done it. You followed the blueprint, you survived the crashes, you built the machine, and you've even reached the crossover point. The hard part's over, right? Nope. Wrong. Now you face the final boss, and it's the person staring back at you in the mirror every morning.
One of the biggest threats at this stage is the silent killer of fees. That small 1% fee your financial advisor charges, it doesn't sound like much, but on a $500,000 portfolio over 30 years, it doesn't cost you 1%. No, it costs you over $1.2 million in future growth. It's the tyranny of compounding costs, and it can quietly steal a third of your entire retirement.
And this is just perfectly shown in the story of two investors, Alan and George. They both hit that $500,000 mark at the exact same time. Alan stayed disciplined. He cut his fees, he ignored the scary headlines, and he just stayed the course. George, he upgraded his lifestyle, he kept his expensive advisor, and he panic sold during downturns. The result? Alan ended up with more than double George's net worth. The market was the same for both of them. Their behavior was what made all the difference.
See, in this final stretch, the enemies change. It's not about saving enough money anymore. It's about defeating these three very human impulses. There's lifestyle creep, where you start spending more just because your account balance is bigger. There's the behavior gap, letting fear and greed make you sell low and buy high. And finally, there's just plain old boredom, which tempts you to ditch the simple strategy that worked and start gambling on something more exciting.
Which leaves us with one last, really critical question. Building the machine is just the first half of the journey. Once it's up and running, generating wealth all on its own, the biggest challenge isn't the market, it's not the economy, it's not inflation, it's you. The question is, do you have the discipline to get out of your own way and just let it work?